Andreas, go ahead. Andreas, we cannot hear you. Andreas, we still cannot hear you. Andreas, we cannot hear you. Anyway, my apologies to all attendees. It seems Andreas is having some technical issues.
Can you hear me, Rajiv?
Yes, you're back online.
Okay, thank you very much. So good afternoon, this is Andreas Reckerbrand from Init. Rajiv, thank you for your introduction. I'm going to present the APC passenger accounting system with expandable features in the APC webinar. First, an agenda. What we prepared for this is basically the history of the APC technologies. We'll show a current status of systems, future trends of APC technologies, how it benefits transit agencies, the challenges, accuracy issues, reliability, hardware maintenance issues, and as well you will have the possibility later on for ask questions, so we'll go more in details. To give you an overview, I mean APC passenger accounting is used detail counts at stop level for every route, calculating on stop, on-time performance, ridership reports, route stop time periods, peak. In the US we need to provide as well NTD reporting, passenger miles, the boardings, this is for the FTA. And Jonathan will show you then later on, we have a combined presentation to go more details in the reporting section, how RTD is using the data. The most important point for an agency is the accurate data, to present the data that you can use, that you can plan with the data. The agency itself, I encourage everybody when they come out with new RFPs to specify the margin of error it must meet. We have seen in the past as well that RFPs are copied from the specification, and at the end that the accuracy is not that specified what it should be in the future or in the procurement process. It needs to be processed as well, or the testing method needs to be process of the installed product needs to be tested. You have to have a procedure how the data is installed, it's validated, and then reported at the back-end system that you can verify my data is really accurate, that what I can use. The different kind of APC systems from the history, Init replaced the APC system in Montreal in 2001. In the past they had like counting mats, so that was a past. Then at the same time we see like side beam barrier, so you have like a horizontal beam on the left side going through in a horizontal way and people going in and out the bus. And you had like weight measurement system on trains. You had or have a reflection light scanner and active sensor on the overhead of the door. Init used as well a passive sensor to detect passengers going in and out. Every person emits heat, so that was detected at one time. Then we have combination of active and passive sensors. There are like sensors like IRMA 3D technology, so time of flight, we send infrared light in the door area, the reflection is measured. Then there's another way, it's like video-based systems. And then we have time of flight technology, which produces 3D images on 500 pixel. That's the current status what we are using as well. So this is like an overview, and I just want to go a little bit more in details. I updated a list, the current status of APC systems, so you can see what I just went through, which are obsolete, which are still in use, active technology is still current. In it is using the IRIS technology. IRIS is a sensor company out of Berlin. Init owns 43% of that company, so we're using the technology from IRIS, and the active-passive technology will be phased out in 2016. The pure electric sensor is difficult to produce in the future, and there are other ways and smarter ways in order to use new technology. So that's why we are switching over. Then the time of flight is the IRMA 3D technology, stereoscopic camera, and as well the matrix technology. So these are the different sensor types which are still in use. I want to show you a couple pictures on legacy systems with a horizontal beam. So you have a horizontal beam in the doorway, and every time you cross the sensor, it's like the sensor area, so you have like two beams for an inner and outer detection area. Then you get like a impulse, and that's like one count. But what happens, for example, if somebody stands in the doorway, blocks the sensor, or you have a wide door and two people go through? So there are a couple points to think about if this technology is really up to date. Bulk data is when you walk in really in a bulk, and there's no sequence between, empty. So then these technologies are still available and still in use. Video-based systems, they're installed above the overhead, but due to the height clearance what we have, for example on buses, we have like 1 meter 90, 95, 98, 1 meter 90 the door height. This is difficult to install the sensor really direct in the doorway. Makes sense. These systems for stationary, we are using these kind of sensors as well, because then we have the clearance like 2 meter 50 height, and then this sensor works really well for us, but for us it's difficult to install the sensor in the doorway. On the right side you see like another system out of Germany. It's an active sensor. On the wide door you have like 3 of these elements. You need to have the entire doorway then covered, but really with the bulk people walking in and out, it's difficult to have really good accuracy data based on these technologies. And you need at least like 6 elements, for example, so that's a lot of installation, maintenance. You have to adjust each sensor by itself, so that's something to think about. The key components of an APC system, you have the sensor system on the vehicle, so I'm going what Init is installing, so I just want to use our technology. So we have a sensor system on the vehicle, we have an onboard computer, we get GPS information and transmit the data through WLAN. So every time the door is open, the sensor is active, we count the people, have the GPS information connected to this information, and then the event is transmitted to the wayside where the data is being matched. We have a module that's called Mobile DVM Data Validation Module. So we'll match the schedule information with the vehicle information and then export the data into mobile statistics. And mobile statistics is our reporting tool. From there we have all the data stored, and you will see then with Jonathan how he's using our data, presenting this for the agency. So it's really bulk of data, what can be utilized, geographical in all kind of forms. APC integration, what you need to look for is you have to do a vehicle survey. You need to check the width of the door, the height of the door. So how many sensors do I really need for this vehicle type? The mounting location, do I need an external bracket? Can I install my sensor already in the doorway, or do I need to manufacture some brackets? The installation and testing and verification. So we are doing as well a APC test ride. So we hook up a laptop to the sensor system, record the data, we'll take the data, send it to Iris, our sensor company, they verify the data, everything is looking good, or they calibrate the software, and we update the sensor system through WLAN. So each bus is tested and verified as well. We're using as well Iris to get out to the agency, verify the system. The APC verification based on Iris specification is related to the German VDV standard 457. So these describes the error accuracy specification, and Iris related that out of Germany, and then when we started our US office in 1999, these specifications were taken over in our installation process. So we are using at the moment 4 different sensors. So we have the IRMA Basic, the IRMA Advanced, which we will phase out in 2016, and our most current is IRMA 3D. So, and the IRMA Matrix sensor. So these two are the same technology type. It's like time of flight technology. The one has like 4 pixel and the other one has 500 pixel in order to have better accuracy. Here's an overview about the accuracy the different sensor types deliver. So we have a IRMA Basic with passenger error 5%, passenger active passive 5%, and the technology, the smarter we get, the more accurate the system will get as well. So 4% and 2%. And then we have on the left side the different balanced errors for boarding passengers, balanced for alighting, unbalanced, and required passengers. And I get a little bit in details how we read these numbers, what this means. So the Iris specification, this is based on the VDV from Germany as well. You see on the left side, and they have introduced like 4 different errors. You see the manual counting, what somebody was on the bus, was riding the bus, and he counted manual going in, going out, 50 people, so that's accurate. The sensor counted, for example, and this is an example, 48 boardings and 54 out. So, and the passenger error is then defined by what the sensor measured minus a reference divided by the reference multiplied by 100%. So this is our 2% passenger error. And then we can see the same example for the balance entering passenger error. So you have 48 people, the sensor is counting out, my reference was 50, divided by 50, multiplied by 100, this is minus 4%. And I get the same for the exiting, and then the unbalanced error tells me how often I was 100% counting on my boardings going in and out. So this translated to an IRMA test ride in San Diego, where you can see what we have, this statistical evaluation package. It's called IRMA test ride. Every train or every bus we're installing will be then verified. So after we do the pilot installation, we install a laptop connected to the sensor, and here you can see the same way. IRMA in, this is the sensor, 36 in, 27 out. The manual was 35 and 27. So this relates to a passenger error 1.6%. So if you translate this back to the last screen what we had, so we're getting the same information, 1.6% passenger error. I'm using then on the upper top, you see the 36 and this 27 out. My reference level was 35 and 27, and so on. And we are relating then these numbers. So this is what IRIS is specified, and these numbers in it is representing, when we do the installation, we verify that these numbers match what we proposed as well. So this is used, and we have then a nice sample at the beginning when we do the test ride. If the software does not match our specification, then we record the files, user files, and IRIS produces a calibrated software which the sensor is accustomed to that vehicle type, and the customer at the end will benefit from these accuracy values. So that the trends what we see in technology, what in it is describing, or IRIS as well, we had in the past like sensor, active passive sensor, where we had to manual calibrate the sensor at the beginning of the installation, and basically you wave your hand at the outside, and the sensor should not be able to detect your hand. Basically your hand is emitting like heat, so the sensor detects the heat pattern from when you walk in and out. So we don't want to see this kind of movement. So it took some time, and really it was installation process was maintenance. When people on the bus in the garage, they had to work on door contacts or the overhead, they had to readjust these sensors. So that was for us as well a point to say, you know what, we need to get a smarter sensor technology out in order to be hands-free, so that the maintenance people don't need to touch anything anymore, don't do verify. So this was one point to move over, as well the fulfillment of higher accuracy requirements. We see now in RFPs, you need to count wheelchairs, bikes, and stroller. So that's coming up. So as I just mentioned, my first point was, this was our IRMA active passive sensor, and you have the mounting screws, and you could unscrew these adjustment screws. I don't want to get more in details on this, but there's still systems out. The sensor is really working fine, but you have to do manual adjustment. If somebody works on the bus, then you need to test the sensor again, verify the sensor, that you don't have the movement outside. So on the upper picture here, you can see the active passive, or the passive technology. It's like you have like a beam for the inside and for the outside. The blue is the outer curtain, the purple one is the inner curtain, and on the bottom, in addition, you have the active sensor. So every time when you walk in, there's a reflection coming from the person, then you get this bulb coming up. So this was a combination, and we had to make sure, basically with the adjustment screws, that the outer curtain is not touching outside, it's starting inside of the door. So that was one portion, and this technology will be phased out in 2016. We are already replacing all new installation. We have a lot of OEM buses already switched over to newer technology, so there is no manual adjustment anymore in use. So we switched over as well, for example, to the IRMA 3D technology, time of flight. It's really largely independence of temperature, luminance, humidity, reflective, non-responsive. So you don't see any screw anymore. It's basically the sensor needs to be installed. You need 2 for a wide door, 1 for a small door, and most of the buses we have as well in Canada, North America, they're having like one sensor on the train. I have like 2 of these sensors in one doorway, and I have then connected like 8 sensors to one analyzer. This is like in a circle. Sensors are connected in a CAN bus. It's a really easy installation and easy to use. No adjustment, sensor adjustment needed, and it's basically maintenance free. And you get really defined signals. That's what you have seen before with the blue and purple. So here we have more defined signals in order to see what the person looked like. And with 2 sensors, you see we have then like the door area for an inner and outside detection area represented, and the reflection is then measured by the chip inside. This was the same sensor type is installed in Durham. We did right now, 2 weeks ago, we did the Nova bus, and we had Iris perform the verification right. As an example as well, you can see the sensor counted 156 in. We counted 164 out. The sensor manually we had 160 and 163. So this, what you can see here, minus 0.9%, 323 passengers within 121 door operations. So it's really accurate data. There's 1 sensor installed per door, front door and the rear door. So this is what we use on bus installation, but now what I mentioned earlier, higher accuracy requirements come now in place. With current system, active systems, there's no way that you will ever analyze these kind of data. So I see one specification is on the market right now. The APC shall have the ability to recognize and classify regular passenger objects such as wheelchairs, stroller, bicycles, etc. with 95% accuracy. So this is a specification, and now they want an APC system to do this. We do, for example, in airports, like with our technology, where you have a lot of people with wheelchairs or with strollers. So you strollers and luggage, you have to distinguish. So that these requirements are out, and you need to find the right sensor. So Iris developed as well, but we had this IRMA 3D technology with 4 pixel. These requirements came in. I said, we want to count the wheelchair, we want to count the bike. And then they said, with 4 pixel, you're not able to do this. So in the meantime, they developed, based on the same technology, they developed the IRMA matrix, which has 500 pixel, and I'm getting a little bit in an animation to show you. It's basically like a camera, what you see. Really, you can see people walking in and out. There's no calibration. There's no door contacts anymore required, because the sensor is connected through Ethernet. The onboard computer already knows when the door is open, so he triggers the sensors through Ethernet and say, now you are active, now you're closed, the door is closed, and this is basically the starting point to collect then the data. So it's really a quality of data for the agency. There's no analyzer anymore. The installation process is really easy, and with OEM installation, so it's basically there will be a cutout and the sensor is really mounted into, and it's connected with a power cable and it's an Ethernet cable. So future-wise, it's really the way to go. There's no maintenance with like where somebody works on a door and then you had like this door switch and then they unmount everything and later on they had to rework the door, and then suddenly the sensor doesn't work anymore. So it's really easy because the onboard computer knows when the door is open and triggers the sensor. It's basically only one piece. So and then the technology, speed of light, converts the time of flight into the distance. So there's a transmitter, so we have 2 LED arrays, and there's an object which is the person in the doorway. So, and the distance between the head and the transmitter and the receiver is different than the shoulder. So out of this information, and with 500 pixel, we are creating a real image of a person. So the next picture is coming up now. So we are showing the There's the infrared. You see on the left and the right side, you see these 15 LED arrays on each side. You have 15 LEDs. There are 2 arrays. They're sending out the door area, the beams, and the reflection goes then back to the. In the middle, you see a CCD chip, 500 pixel, and this is taking the information, and out of that will create a picture. So, as you can see, the animation below. So you see people walking in, and the red is not. It's basically closer to the sensor. It's not like it's a head. It's not like infrared or it's really only the distance. People sometimes when they see these pictures, they think, oh, this is infrared. No, it's the reflection. The red picture is the head. This is the highest point, and then the shoulder is a different color, which is lower. So that's how the sensor analyzes the picture itself. And with the future, you can see as well, and I'll get to this, we do as well wheelchairs, we do bikes. Really accurate data. You can see now the door closes, and this, now the door opens up again. Another person, 2 people, 3, and so on. This is the latest technology, what we have, what we are using as well. In the past, if you think about it, you have like this beam and people, the side beam, and people move back and forth, or like they're standing in the bus and trying to pay, and there's a queue lined up in the doorway. Every time when you move back and forth in that door area, you create a count. It's basically here that the sensor tracks you, and if you're standing in the doorway, you're not getting counted. This is really accurate data for the agency. So I'm just moving further. We have these 2 sensor types. One is the surface mount and one is the flush mount version. So for OEM business, we have the cutout in the doorway. It's on the bottom. If you do a retrofit on buses, you can have the cutout right away, and there's one sensor basically installed in the doorway. So it's 500 pixel, time of flight technology, no adjustment, 1 sensor per door, no door contact, Ethernet interface. I think I went through these points already. Here a couple installation overviews where the cutout comes in place. The sensor is mounted where you have then the cutout only for the S-con, so you have then 2 screws, and the S-con is basically the connector from the sensor, Ethernet and power to the onboard computer, basically to the sensor on the bottom. So there's one hole needed anyway. So as well, we use then 1 sensor in the middle of the door. If we have a wider door, like 1.50 meters, and we're doing the Toronto UP Express Airport Express, it's coming up next year in May. So this is a wide door, and there we have like 2 of these matrix sensors in one doorway. So we're doing as well stationary APC with this kind of sensor, but then you have a different geometry where to put the sensors in location. This as well, door number 1, a test ride what we did in Santa Clara Valley in San Jose. We have 99 light rail vehicles equipped. You can see what the test ride what we did. There's 1 sensor installed, and the good thing is the door height is only 1.92 meters height, and we only need 1 sensor. So we counted 36 in, 42 out, and manual was 36, 42. That was really in bulk data. This data comes out of a verification test ride, which was produced as well by IRIS. Then we have the YRT Nova buses installed. They came already pre-installed from the factory. They're New Flyer buses for YRT as well out. Similar installation, looks like the same. Then we have, this is a Gillick installation in Denver. So this is related to Jonathan. They have now a lot of new OEM buses, and they're switched over from the old technology already last year, so they're getting already more than 180 buses already with the new buses installed, as well 3-door buses. All the sensors are connected through Ethernet switches, and it's really up-to-date technology. This is, as well I mentioned earlier, the VTA installation, so welcome on board. This is for a white door. So we have one sensor installed. The outlook as well, the height classification. So in right now, the IRMA test ride, we're using a visualization software as well. So this can clarify or classify basically in adults and kids area. So you can set these parameters where you want to have these people going into, in which section. So you can distinguish as well between passengers, adults and kids. Then as well the wheelchair and stroller. So IRIS is working. They installed more than 200 trains in Berlin, the BVG in Germany. So, and they have to report by the fourth quarter, end of the year, the bicycle activity. So that's what they're working out right now. So all these transformation will be used as well in our project. So if the sensor is made that smart to analyze, you see already there's a stroller or a wheelchair different picture, then you can analyze this. So that's what IRIS is working right now, and the decision is made in the sensor. So this sensor algorithm detects already in the sensor, I have a person, I have a wheelchair, I have a bike. That's what they're trying to do right now, and this will be rolled out in the next year. To give you from the sensor evolution based on the IRIS Init product. So Init did the partnership with IRIS in 1990. So at that time, the passive technology was in use. In the 2000, when I started with Init in 2000, that was IRMA Advanced Active Passive Technology. And then in the meantime, we went through different sensor types. A low-cost sensor, we went through higher accuracy, the IRMA 3D with 4 pixel, and now we are on a stage now with 3D vision via time of flight. So that's basically what I just showed you on the IRMA matrix sensor. This is our latest, and we're using this on most of the projects because this gives us a easy installation, maintenance-free for the customer, the best accuracy, and at the end the agency is winning with this kind of technology. So here a couple animations as well, so you can see the people walking in. So the technology produces 3D images instead of like a 2D contrast what we had in the past. So you can distinguish the objects, higher accuracy. Here the door is opening, people coming in. And door is closed again. So and then as I mentioned earlier, so you have the vehicle portion, the data is then transferred to the mobile DVM, data validation, from there exported in mobile statistics, and that will be then Jonathan's portion to take over from there. I had one item as well, reliability, on my agenda earlier. IRIS takes a lot of emphasis on delivering a really accurate product, accurate and counting as well on delivering failure. There's no failure. So all units are tested for 46 hours in the burn-in test, and after this burn-in test was successful, every sensor is recorded, and then they produce the final end test. So there's a real process going on. So the sensor itself, there's not failures. I mean, they're tested already prior. So from that point of view, there's from the maintenance, really one good aspect that you don't have to replace these sensors. The sensors are really working. really well. This was my presentation on the APC technology. I hope I could give you an overview about the APC technology.
Thank you so much, Andreas. I really appreciate it. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And we will move to the next presenter in the interest of time, and then we will answer all the questions which I have been receiving through the tool. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Jonathan.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. And I hope you can see my presentation okay.
Yes,
I'm going to talk a little bit about our implementation of the init automated passenger counters here in Denver. We started in about 2003, 2004, and we put APCs on 49 of roughly our 1,000 buses at the time, and on 24 light rail vehicles. We've grown quite a bit since then in terms of using APCs because we found it very reliable and giving us good data, and I'll show that as I go through my presentation. One of our requirements as we put together our system was we realized we wanted to integrate together both counts from service monitors, of which we used to have 15 and now we're down to 6, as well as the init APC data. So instead of using mobile statistics by itself for doing the reporting of the APC data, we actually roll it into RideCheck Plus, which is a database produced by RSM Services down in Houston, Texas. And the type of information we put in there now, and this number right now is we have about 450 buses roughly out of 1,000 with APCs installed. That number is changing every week because we currently have orders coming in for both new articulated buses and new transit coaches. The init automated passenger counter systems works every day and it brings the data in, and when we bring it into RideCheck Plus, we go through a number of validations to make sure that we believe the data is correct. And when we go through those validations, we find that we do throw out some data. Right now we're throwing out maybe about 6 to 12% of our data, and usually the reasons are things like the route is on detour, so we weren't able to confirm that the entire pattern was driven and those types of issues. We also have the init APC system currently on 42 of our light rail cars. And for light rail, we have an additional system we go through because we may have at sometimes 2 cars with APCs on them on a 3-car train, and so we go through and we would factor that and assume that the sampling for those 2 cars represents all 3 cars, so we factor the data as it comes in. I will talk a little bit about this as how we do our scheduling, both in Trapeze and our in-house TIE system. Trapeze FX is what we use for scheduling both our light rail and bus system. And then starting in 2016, we're going to open up a commuter rail line going to the airport, and all of our 56 commuter rail cars, which are paired cars, so I guess it depends on how you would count them. I guess it would be we actually count the individual cars on that rather than the pair. Finally, we also have data that comes from our service monitors, and we have a staff of 6 service monitors that use laptops for collecting ride checks and point checks. We have some street supervisors that also collect some point check data. And we also have what we call at both our at our Union Station and our Civic Center Station, people who collect on-time performance for vehicles going in there, and we roll all that data into our RideCheck Plus system also, so we can do all of our on-time reporting and all of our ridership statistics out of one database. We also bring in all of our CAD-AVL data for schedule adherence into our RideCheck Plus database, and we have been using an init system since 2003, but before that we had a system that was originally an orbital Westinghouse and later an ACS data CAD-AVL system. Finally, out of our RideCheck Plus database, we do a lot of analysis and reporting. We have a lot of schedule adherence reports, ridership analysis reports. We do a lot of other types of reporting on the data. And finally, this last one, which is a ridership analysis map, I'll show you one of those later in this presentation, just to give you an idea of that. I probably won't show you any of these other reports because they just look tabular and they're pretty plain looking. Over the years, what we found is that in collecting data with APCs, we get a lot more ride checks than we ever could have by using just manual systems. Back in 2004, we were only able to collect a few thousand ride checks per year. And over the years, that number has increased dramatically as we've added more vehicles with APCs on them, all the way until we get to 2012. Now, when we get to 2012, in January of 2012, we actually cut back our service about 12% because of the economic downturn. And at the same time, in 2012 and 2013, we implemented our new CAD-AVL system, and we had some disruptions of data collection at that time, but we're now back on board for collecting more data for 2014. Now, I want to talk about accuracy and what we found about accuracy with our APC systems. Andreas talked about accuracy quite a bit and how to do the calculations in his talk quite a bit. And this is just how we've implemented it each particular year since we've been using APCs. And I'll just kind of go through, I'll start with these 2005 numbers, which is the first year we started doing that. One of the things you have to remember about APCs is they count everything that goes on the bus, and they would count both the service monitor and which is a person that's actually doing the counting, as well as our operator when he gets on the bus. Our service monitors, however, only count the passengers getting on and off, and they do not count themselves or the bus operator. So when we do our statistical analysis, for example, in 2005, I had placed on about 569 trips that year a service monitor on the same bus as an APC over the course of the year, and what I found was that the total APC boardings for that year were about 20,000 passengers here, and the alightings were a little different. It wasn't perfectly balanced, but it was a little different. So I took an average number for the APCs here of this number. For the service monitors, they actually counted a number that's a little lower, which is not surprising because the boardings and alightings counted by the service monitors, again, they're not counting themselves or the passenger. And so I take an average of that, which is the total service monitors count here. And what I do is I adjust the APC number by subtracting the operator and the service monitor for that number. So I essentially take this number and subtract 2 times this number to arrive at this number. And then the overall combination here, these two are really what I'm comparing when I do the estimated accuracy. And as you can see, each year we've always been within our 5%. Andreas had mentioned early on that it's always good to specify your accuracy in your original request for proposal, and we had done that. We had requested that they were always within 5%. And as you can see, each year of our program of using APCs, we've been able to verify that we're within that 5% statistic using these numbers. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how this fits in. You have to remember the people that I'm supporting are primarily service service planners and schedulers and analysts. And so I want to make sure that they get good data for being able to do their work. And so what a service planner scheduler usually does when they define a new route is they start off by defining their time points at specific bus stops. And then as the schedule gets developed, we actually go ahead and put all the intermediate bus stops that are just stops but not time points into the schedule. And right now we're placing all of that into our Trapeze scheduling system. And then we have a large number of validations we go through to make sure our data is accurate. And I do mean a large number, about 90 different error checks that we go through every week to make sure our data is accurate before we load it in our downstream production systems. After this step, and what's kind of implied between this and the next one is that the bus actually goes out and collects the data, and the data then rolls up into our NIT CAD-AVL and APC data collection system. And then it rolls into our RideCheck Plus database that I talked about earlier for our people to do analysis and reporting. And then we have a couple other things we do with the analysis. We have a TriTap system, which is actually from the University of Delft, that we're really using for our transit signal priority processes. And the one thing that it tells us that the RideCheck Plus data doesn't is we go back and we query the data from our init system, and we're able to estimate the time at traffic stops in between bus stops and be able to do totals on that. And we can use that for prioritization of traffic signal priority projects. Then in our overall process, every run board we go through and we ask, can we improve the customer experience by improving the running time on routes or by providing additional capacity? And what we'll find is that we do have the data to be able to make those with this overall system in place. Finally, I just want to show you one graph, and this is actually something that comes out of RideCheck Plus, and we export the data to ArcGIS. And this probably doesn't show super well on your screen because it's pretty small, but we would actually print this out on a very large board and take it to public meetings when we're going to make a change on a route. And this particular graphic, the green at each one of these stops, what's represented along here is a particular route, and this was our Route 153 that ran up and down the east side of Denver before our 2012 cutback. And what you see in this particular case is that the green is actually the boarding at each individual stop, and the yellow is an alighting. And what you can see is each of the individual stops along here. We actually do have the numbers posted on this, but it doesn't show pretty well. But I think you can get the idea that the usage of some of these stops is very large, and the uses of some of the other stops is quite a bit smaller. What you can actually show on this graph, though, is that the ridership of this route, both alightings and boardings as collected by the APC system, was very high until you came to this bottom section of the route. And what they actually wanted to do at the public meeting was to cut off the route at this point because the ridership was not sustainable for keeping this portion of the route. And so they were able to take this map to their public meeting and present this map to the customers, and it provided a ready and credible way for our passengers to be able to see that we were making a rational choice about how to cut back the route based on a cutback in our funding level. So I just wanted to point out here that these types of graphs using real data are very persuasive to the audience of customers. In our case, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make sure the data is complete, that we have all the stop data and all the ridership data. As I've told you a little bit about in my presentation, we go to a lot of steps to make sure that the data is accurate from the APCs, and we have a number of validation processes both on the schedule and on the data after it's collected to make sure the data is good. And then we update our data frequently. with the APC data, so people have data that's people, in this case, I mean the service planner, schedulers, and the analyst, have readily available data to make good decisions about their routes and schedules. And finally, all of our users have both RightCheck Plus, and they have access to the underlying init data directly from their desktops. And people do go in and delve into the data, and we have what we think is a pretty good system in place to make those decisions. And that pretty much concludes my presentation. So, Rajiv, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now get to the questions. I've received a few questions. And give me a minute. Okay, so I'm going to take the questions in the order I received them. The first question is from Abed Abukar, and the question is, are you using VDV standard 457? I do not know what that standard is, but anyway, I'm going to ask that, for existing APC system at Dart LRT. Andreas, do you want to take that question?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, but basically, because we have the iris sensors installed as well on the Dart LRT, and the specification, what we are relating to our installation process is basically that we count, and we have the IRMA 3D installed, so we have 500 passengers, we verified the data with 500 passengers, and this is based, I described earlier, we're using the VDV standard, or IRIS is related to that standard, what they experienced when they started in Germany, and this was presented, specified as well with Dart, that we use this standard to verify the data. So, and this is the 95%, 96% accuracy on 500 passengers.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Andreas. The next question is from Ken Bailey. Will the active-passive sensor still be available in future for replacements?
The sensors will be available for replacements, but they will not be. We will not roll them out anymore. So IRIS, the sensor company, has more than 1,000 sensors on hold for us. So we can use these ones to use for replacements, but we are not rolling these sensors anymore out. So, but if you have like buses which need some spare parts, it's a good time now to order these sensors. Basically, they're phasing out what I mentioned earlier on the pyroelectric sensor. It's difficult to produce in the future, so they have enough sensors to help everybody out, but we'll switch everybody over to the new technology.
Okay, so next question is again from Ken. Can a bus equipped with active-passive sensors be upgraded to a newer version? Will IRMA need to be replaced?
Can you repeat? I couldn't hear.
Yeah, no problem. Actually, it seems that I may be having a problem with my mic, and I'm also next to a railway track, so a train just passed, so that may be the problem. The question is, can a bus equipped with active-passive sensors be upgraded to a newer version? Will IRMA need to be replaced? Did you get it?
Yeah, if you have right now, as I understand, you have an active-passive system and you want to replace it to a newer version?
That is correct.
Yeah. So if you want to go to an IRMA's 3D technology, so that's basically, we would use the same cabling that could be used. We have, the analyzer uses as well a door contact, so if you want to stick with this solution, that's possible. If you want to switch over to the IRMA matrix, then it's basically you don't need these door contacts anymore, you don't need analyzers, you can have an Ethernet direct to the onboard computer. So the dimension, what you have, what I mentioned earlier for a white door, you have 2 sensors per door. So it's similar if you have an active passive or you have an IRMA 3D, so the cutout is a similar area, so it could be matched right away. If you have a small door, the sensor for an active one was, depending on the configuration, like a D or G configuration, a little bit offset, but the IRMA 3D sensor was placed direct in the middle. So there it needs to be looked at what kind of replacement you want to take part. But we are helpful. If you contact us, we can help you. What can be done?
Okay, thank you, Andreas. The next question is power for matrix sensor PoE, means power over Ethernet?
Yeah, so we have, this is not, we have separate Ethernet and we have separate power. You have seen this SCON, it has an Ethernet cable and has a power cable so coming out for the bus installation. For the rail application it's different. We modified the SCON and have one cable, and it's still not PoE. We are running power and Ethernet in one cable.
Okay, so basically the answer is that no, it's not PoE.
Correct.
And sorry, I should have mentioned that question was from John Letterman. The next question is from Yuval. How does the new sensor act in peak loads when people are boarding with little separation or mother holding a child?
I glanced. Is this like if you have a child on the arm, or can you repeat a little bit?
Okay, so how does the new sensor act in peak loads when people are boarding with little separation or a mother is holding a child?
Yeah, so that there will not be a difference that you can say I have a child and I have a person. So the mother and the child will be one person.
Okay. The next question is from Professor Amar Shalabi. Are you aware any agency using real-time APC data as mentioned in slide 27? If so, please elaborate. And I can answer that question actually. We do bring real-time APC data to our control center to determine what the vehicle load is. I hope I've answered that question.
Yeah.
Next question is from Bhavan Tritter. Can you provide more details on the accuracy of the APC for non-standard passengers like strollers, students who are short, groups, bikes, which were identified during the presentation?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, IRIS is still working on this. Will be rolled out and tested in Berlin right now. This is in the fourth quarter right now. So we will have more information on these kind of standards early next year. So we can follow up, and perhaps through you, Rajiv, then perhaps you can distribute this information. But
Absolutely.
Right now I don't have the final information. They're still analyzing. Basically they're recording so much data, makes the sensor smart, and then basically the data, what they propose, the accuracy level will be then provided as well.
Okay, great, thank you. The next question is from Christy Radio. What is the reliability of the units themselves? What is their life expectancy? Do they need to be replaced before the bus retires?
I mean, from 2001 when we installed in Montreal, the system is still in place. This is IRIS philosophy as well, that when they developed a system, that this at least 10 years, 15 years, the system is going on. So sometimes you see now buses already retiring and the equipment will be moved from older buses, but the buses will be retired and then moved over to the new buses. I mean, we have seen this in Denver. Denver now went over to the new technology as well, but I've seen in agencies where they say the buses retire in the APC system, then they buy new cables but use on the existing sensors. We see this in LA Metro. They have still IRMA 3D, so we had like this active-passive technology, in a third generation, so prior what we have now, and these sensors are still transferred to new buses when they get new buses. So the equipment is really long life and will be extended to new buses as well. So we have now these matrix sensors now for 4 years in place. It will be an ongoing, but I cannot specify for how long. The next 15 years.
Yeah, I would just add our experience in Denver, and that is, it seems like we actually have sensors. A sensor actually goes bad only on a few buses per year. You know, we do occasionally have issues where somebody goes and works on a door, because some of our older ones do require the door sensor to be working, to actually work. And we do have issues where people fix the door and forget to test it correctly. But even so, that's on the order of maybe 4 to 6 buses a month, something like that. So for the most part, these have been pretty reliable for us.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you, Jonathan. Next question is for you, Jonathan. You stated that at RTD you are using more than 90 validation steps. Will a list of all the steps be provided on the presentation website?
Yeah, I could make a screenshot of some of our internal validations that we do and send them. We do things like, yeah, we do. I could make some screenshots and send them to you, Rajiv, if that would help. And if anybody had any specific questions, they can certainly email me and I could answer questions about them.
Great, thank you. And certainly once you send it to me, what I will do is I'll add it to the presentation and get it posted on the website.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, the next question is again from Christy. The question is for Jonathan. Jonathan, for a 450 bus APC equipped fleet, how many staff members do you need to actively manage and analyze the data?
Well, we have 2 primary tasks that are done. One is, since we have to do a sampling of them and rotate the buses around, I have somebody working probably at about 1/3 of an FTE or full-time equivalent of analyzing the data with some queries and then recommending to our bus clerks at each division which blocks they should actually put the buses on, and that's probably, like I said, probably about 1/3 of a person. And then the other side is most of our validation work is automated, and so I have a person working probably at about a half full-time level, going through and you know, when we see the percentage of validations go up, in other words, we know that we're going to probably throw out 6 to 12%, but if it gets up to 15%, we go and dig into the data and figure out what's going on and try to debug those issues. And so I have somebody working about probably 40 to 50% of his time doing that, and that's it.
Excellent. So that is all what I received through the tool. Before we end, certainly I would like to thank you, Andreas and Jonathan, for your time.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Appreciated and great presentation. Certainly, if there is any follow-up question to your presentation, I'll send it your way.
Mm-hmm.
I would also like to thank APTS Canada for organizing this and providing the tool to us. Also, I would like to thank all the attendees who are still online. Thank you so much for joining. And I just wanted to let you all know that the next webinar which we are planning is going to be on the mobile fare payment. It's a very interesting topic, and a lot of agencies are looking into this option, and a lot of vendors have different types of solutions. So I'm working on the webinar logistics right now, and I will certainly let you know. But the webinar is tentatively scheduled for December the 2nd from 12:30 to 2:30. and certainly an announcement will go out, and we will provide all the details as to who the presenters are going to be. But just thought I would let you all know, if you're interested, you're most welcome to register and join. So anyway, that's it. Thank you all once again. I hope that you all enjoyed it, and looking forward for our next webinar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good day.